Millions of Jews throughout the ages have died just for being who we are, whether it was in Roman times, in the Inquisition, the Holocaust, pogroms. And countless other people have died for who they are, what they believe, including fighting racism in our country, people dying today because of gun violence, people dying in Ukraine in the war, people dying because they dare to stand up to the regime in Iran. Sometimes they have a choice and sometimes they had no choice, but they faced their fate with unspeakable courage. The martyrology part of the service could be considered a sad or dark part of the service, but I think it's an annual challenge to us to consider for ourselves, what are my highest values? For what would I actually be willing to offer my life? Just think about that for a moment. What is such a high value that we value more than life itself? And the next question is, do we live today for that value? Do we live every day for that value? Please join me in reading the El Maleh Rachamim in English, page 473. May God remember, please join me, may God remember the souls of our martyrs, holy and pure, whose cruel deaths, century after century, have only strengthened our determination to affirm God's holiness in the world. In remembrance of them, we shall perform acts of tzedakah and kindness. May their souls be treasured in the cluster of immortals, along with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, and all the righteous people who have merited a share in the world to come. Amen. I ask you, as able, to rise for the Kaddish, page 477. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach le'olam olmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kucha b'richu. La'ela, la'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yishvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who brings peace on high help us bring peace to our world, and let us say, Amen. And we can be seated. And thank you again to Peter, Zoll for reading, and to Max and Jacob, thank you so much. That was very meaningful having you read that. We begin now another part of this service. At this point in the afternoon service, it begins to lift us up. Now, traditionally, actually, this avodah, or this service that brings us into the temple, in a traditional setting, it's like in the Musaf, but we're bringing it into the afternoon and kind of pulling up our energy now, because we've been working hard, maybe even for 40 days, of tshuva, of repentance, of self-examination. So it's time to begin to know that our prayers are accepted and to feel the joy of this cleansing, and this healing, loving light and forgiveness. So we're going to turn to page 488 for a prayer called Ochila La'el with the cantor. You going to say something about it? Okay.
So traditionally, there's a hineni that a chazan chants. And we don't have that in this machzor. And the Ochila La'el is a wonderful prayer that can be substituted for a community hineni. And a classmate of mine, Chazan Randall Miller, wrote this. So we can all chant this together, and it's call and response. And I'm hoping you like it. So you could repeat after me, and the text is, like the rabbi said, on 488. So instead of Hineni for I am here, God, it's Hinenu, we are here. Here we are. Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Ochi la lael.
Ochi la lael.
Achad lefanav.
Achalefanav.
Eshalar mimenu.
Eshalom mimenu.
Mahane lashon.
Mane lashon.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Asher bikal am.
Asher bikalam.
Ashira uzo.
Ashira uzo.
Abia rinanot.
Abia renano.
Bead mi falav.
Be'ad mifala.
Liadam archelev.
Ledam archelev.
Ume Adonai.
Adonai.
Ma'ane lashon.
Mane lashon.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu. Adonai sifatai tiftach.
Adonai svatai tiftach.
Ufi agi tehilatecha.
Ufi ahikiti latecha.
Yiyu li ratzon.
Yule ratzon.
Imre fi.
Imre fi.
V'hegyon libi lefanecha.
Begyon libi lefanecha.
Adonai tsuriri.
Adonai tzuri.
V'go ali.
Bego ali.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu,
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Hinenu.
Hinenu, Hinenu.
Shukach. So we're all here and present. And you can all feel today a bit like being the high priest. By reciting all these things from the ancient temple ritual, we get a bit of the feeling that we're there and we can put ourselves in that place. So I invite you to participate in a short meditation about the temple ritual. And at the end of that, Farah is going to read something. So Farah, why don't you come up and be ready for that? Your reading's up here. It's right here. Okay. And if you're not into meditating, you can, there's lots of interesting material in our book or your own thoughts. But if you'd like, you might even close your eyes or just soft focus your gaze, kind of putting aside anything that's maybe in your hands or that might be on your mind, just putting it aside, feeling your feet rooted firmly in the ground and your spine stretched up like Jacob's ladder, joining heaven and earth. And just taking a breath and letting it out with an audible sigh. It's Yom Kippur afternoon. The sun came out a little bit. The power of Yom Kippur stretches back in time to when the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, would enter the Holy of Holies on the holiest day of the year to pronounce the holiest name of God. Jewish tradition recreates some of the drama of the service, and this meditation incorporates teachings I learned and the words also from Rabbi David Wolfblank of blessed memory. The image of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest of the temple, bathing in the holy place, on the holiest, highest day of the year is an image we can all carry within ourselves as a channel for blessing. On this day of atonement, this day of at-one-ment, we enter the Holy of Holies inside our own souls. So visualize yourself entering into the Holy of Holies, however you envision that, whether it is a traditional idea of the temple and the ark, or whatever comes to mind, entering the space of the Holy of Holies. Feel the presence of the sacred. What is this place for you? Feel yourself being bathed in boundless love and compassion. See yourself as a child being received by a loving parent with acceptance and forgiveness. Visualize an all-pervading, cleansing light washing over and through your body. See and feel this light dissolve and wash away any stains and sticky aspects of your physical and emotional bodies. See your body radiant and glowing from inside. Feel the freshness and relaxation of renewal. And now, still relaxed, listen to a story of Yom Kippur from the Yiddish playwright S. Ansky.
There are 70 peoples in the world. Within the holy peoples of the world, the holiest people is Israel. Within the people of Israel, the holiest tribe was the Kohanim, a family of the Levites. Among the Kohanim, the holiest person was the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. There are many holy places in the world. The holiest is the land of Israel, in which the holiest city is Jerusalem. The holiest place in Jerusalem was the holy temple, and deep within the temple, the holiest place, was the Holy of Holies that held the Holy Ark. There are 365 days in a year. Of the days of the year, the holiest is the Sabbath, and the holiest of all is the Sabbath of Sabbaths, the Day of Atonement. There are 70 languages in the world. The Torah contains the holiest words in the holy language of Hebrew, and the holiest of all the Torah's words is the name of God. And once during the year, there are 4 supreme sanctities of the world were joined with one another. That was on the Day of Atonement, when the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies and there utter the holy name of God. And because this hour was beyond measure holy and awesome, it was the time of utmost peril, not only for the high priest, but for the whole of creation. For if in this hour there had, God forbid, entered the mind of the high priest a false or sinful thought, the entire world would have been destroyed. Every spot where a person stands and looks toward heaven is the Holy of Holies. Every day of one's life is a day of atonement. Every person is a high priest, and every word that a person utters in holiness is the name of God.
When you're ready, if your eyes were closed, slowly open them. Bring the holiness of this moment back into your world today. We'll turn now to our Torah service. So in the afternoon service, besides doing we've incorporated both the martyrology and the avodah, or priestly moments. We now have a Torah service. You'll notice when I chant the Torah, I'm going to use the regular all year-round Torah trope. That's what we do on Yom Kippur afternoon. And then we have a very special rendition, a participatory rendition of the book of Jonah, which everyone will have a part. Almost forgetting, though, we'll have some silent meditation time and confession, because we can't avoid that because it's Yom Kippur. Okay, so page 506, the Torah service. Sorry? Yeah?
Haron vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai v'yafutzu oivecha, v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Li'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
So we'll call up Sue and Steve Schaefer to open the ark, and Susan Towers will carry the Torah, and Larry's going to help us. Larry Krever will help us as our helping hands Gabbai, helping us take out the Torah. Please rise as we prepare to take out the Torah. We're not going to march around with the Torah this afternoon. Or we are going to march around? No, we're just going to march over to the table. Yeah, okay.
Do you want Roma moved?
As long as it takes us to get over to
Okay,
the
good.
table. Yeah, okay, so please, you can open it.
Gadlu Adonai iti, unromamo shemo yakta.
Larry will help you take it out. Larry, you want to help us take it out? Okay. So make sure you get the right one. Okay.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavu lehar kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavu lehar kadsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavu lehar kadsho.
So we can be seated. Well, actually, I thought we could all say the blessing together. This is going to be like a one Aliyah Torah reading. And do you want to give us the page that the Torah reading begins? Although I'm going to translate. I'm going to do a selection and translate.
Torah reading begins on page 510.
510, okay. 508 for the blessing. I'm just repeating because you know. Okay. Here, why don't you, Larry, lead everybody in the blessing? Okay. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
Shebachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. You may be seated now. I'm going to read a couple of verses from the beginning, and then I'm going to jump forward a little bit. Okay. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'amarta alehem kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Speak to all the people of Israel and say to them, Holy you shall be, for holy am I your God. I'm going to skip a little bit. We're just doing a selection right now. but I'm skipping to about halfway down the page. Uvekortzechem et ketziratechem. Lo techale pe'at sadcha likzor veleket ketzircha lo tilaket. And as you are gathering the harvest of your field, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. V'charmecha lo te'olel, uferet karmecha lo tilaket, lani v'lager tazovatam, ani Adonai Elohechem. Do not pick your vineyard bare, or gather all the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am your God, which seems a lot like what our wonderful people are doing that are doing food rescue. They're going getting food and bringing it for the needy. Lo tikdovu v'lo techachashu v'lo tishakru ish ba'amito. You shall not steal. You shall not deal deceitfully or falsely with one another. Lo tishavu v'shmi l'shaker v'chilalta et shem Elohecha ani Adonai. Certainly do not swear falsely by my name. That would be profaning the name of God. Lo ta'ashok et re'acha ve'lo tigzol lo talin pulat sachir itcha ad boker. And do not defraud your fellow. You shall not commit robbery, and the wages of a laborer shall remain with you until morning. Lo tikalel cheresh v'lifnei iver lo titein mikshol ve'yareta be'Elohecha ani Adonai. You should not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am Adonai. And the rabbis tell us this does not only apply to being kind to people with disabilities, but also metaphorically, don't insult someone outside their hearing. Do not place a stumbling block metaphorically in front of somebody because of something they don't know. Ani Adonai. Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat, avel b'mishpat, lo tisaf nedal ve'lo te'adar p'nei gadol, b'tzedek tishpot amitecha. Don't render any unfair decisions. Don't favor the poor or show deference to the rich. Judge your kin fairly. Lo telech v'achil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al damrecha, ani Adonai. Don't go about as a talebearer among your people. Don't stand idly by the blood of your fellow. I am Adonai. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. Don't hate your brother in your heart or your sister in your heart. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. But if they did something you don't like, speak up. Velo tisa alav chet, so it's not your fault too. This is the hardest part. I feel almost like the hardest mitzvah in the Torah coming up. Lo tikom velo titoret b'nei amecha. Don't take revenge and don't bear a grudge against a member of your people. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and love your neighbor, your friend as yourself. Ani Adonai, for I am Adonai. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, baruch atah Adonai notena Torah. Amen. And we could remain standing as able because we're calling up Charles. Ya'amod, Chaviv ben Avraham v'Rav Yudi Tova Hagba. And for Galila, we call on Marilyn Feldman. Okay. And we're actually going to return the Torah to the Ark because we're going to be doing a play for the Havdalah. So you just, what? Yes, it's yes. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Okay, I'm just going to have to start. Watch your step. You want to? Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe vezot HaTorah. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe, vezot HaTorah. And then this. wants to go on that side? Okay. All right. Okay. And we'll place the Torah in the ark. It says page 524 and 5. I'm not looking at my book, so I don't know what's there.
It's 524.
Okay.
Yehalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Hodu al
Would you like to
eretz
open the ark?
b'shamayim,
Get a little faster.
vayarem keren li'amo, tehila lecho chasidav, livnei Yisrael, am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
It's Chaim. Well, we're singing Eitz Chaim here as we close the ark. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just regular Eitz Chaim as well. Whatever you want.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meshushar diracheha darchenoam v'chol netivoteha Shalom, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, V'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu, 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 Kekedem.
We'll close the ark. Okay. We can be seated. Thank you. Eshikah. So, for this, we have a very famous Havdalah, and it should be a one very beloved of people that live by the sea, because it's all about seafaring. And it's the book of Jonah. You know, the story, oh, wait, where's my props? The guy that got swallowed by it said a big fish, Dagadol, big fish. That's the name of a restaurant in Rehoboth, right? But, okay. Maybe it was a whale. In most of the children's books, it's a whale. So I have some props. So there was, okay. There's going to be a prophet. He's got his staff. There's going to be a king. There's going to be a whale. If you're wondering where this is going, it's all about you. We're going to recruit some new talent. We're going to see who's a kosher ham in this group. Because until now, when asking for readings, I've asked people that are highly involved in the synagogue and some of our stars of Purim spiels and other plays, I know like to be up on stage. But I think there must be other hidden talent in our audience, right? People that really want to get up here and do a part. I sure hope so. Because we have 7 parts. So I want you to look inside your soul and see which part really fits you. You do need to be able to read this loudly and clearly. There are some microphones up here, I'm told, can pick everything up when you're up on the stage. Yes, he says it will pick up if you just stand here. So we need someone to be a narrator. You know, someone who was always, if you feel like you're that person who's always kind of interpreting things, got a narrator? Anyone feeling like being the narrator today? I'm just looking for volunteers. Okay, Carol, okay. And then we need someone to be God. Oh, some people are nominating others to be God. Like that person thinks they're God. Who wants to be God? Does someone want to be God? Oh, we'd all like to be God. Okay, you ready? Go ahead. Come on up. Come on up if you've chosen a part. Those who've chosen a part, come on up to the bima. And then we need Jonah. If you're feeling rebellious today, like a little bit like you just want to run the other way. Okay, there you go. I can't always tell who everybody is with their mask. Okay. Okay. Stacy, yes? Okay. There you go. Thank you. Now, I wish I had some sailor costumes. Couldn't come up with any, but who likes to be the captain? The captain. Okay, captain. Captain Leonard. And then just sailors, 2 sailors. I don't know, maybe Max and Jacob want to be the sailors. They'll be the sailors. And then, of course, the important job of being the whale. Who just wants to be the whale? Anyone want to be the whale? Okay, there you go. Susan's the whale. Okay. And the king, If you missed out on God, you could still be the king. Anyone want to be the king? Or you could be a queen. This is not going to be gender bound. Anybody? Okay, there you go. Okay, so Phil. I think, if you need to take your mask off, just kind of give yourself space, okay? So that if you're on the bima doing your part, you decide, okay? But all right, or maybe just for your part, Okay, so the king, Phil, okay. You may be crowned. Now, that doesn't mean the rest of you are just a passive audience. No, everyone else is the chorus. There's a part for the chorus. So every time it says chorus, we all have to do that part. So we all have to pay close attention to this 4-chapter book of the prophets. But I'm going to chant a little of Hebrew at some point, so I need to have my book here. All right, let's begin with chapter 1, the flight. Okay. Nineveh.
And proclaim against it, for their badness has come to my attention.
But Jonah got up and fled.
It's a little closer to
He
the mic.
went
maybe.
down to Yaffo and found his ship going to Tarshish.
Yeah.
So he paid his fare and went down to the ship to go with them to Tarshish, away, he thought, from Adonai.
There's no away when it comes to Adonai. Being everywhere is my thing.
Maybe a little closer to the mic.
Oh, just throw me overboard. This is all my fault.
But the sailors didn't want to throw him in the sea. Instead, they rowed hard to bring the ship to land.
Row, row, row your boat down the stream.
But the sea just grew wilder and wilder. It was like Dewey Beach on the 4th of July.
We beg you, Adonai, not to destroy us. Take a little ownership of your issues.
When nothing else worked, they took Jonah and threw him into the sea. And the sea stopped raging. Then the men had great respect for Adonai and turned to worship him.
That was awesome.
Your parts are done, sailors and captains, so you may be seated. Sailors and captain. Chapter 2, the fish, or was it a whale?
Adonai prepared a big fish, maybe it was a whale, to swallow Jonah up.
Gulp.
Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights.
Sorry. Boy, I'm not so sure about this whole prophet diet.
And Jonah said, "V'gakarati mitzarali el Adonai v'yaneni mipeten sheol shivati shamata koli v'tashlicheni mitzula b'lev yami v'nahar yisoveveni ki mishparecha v'galecha alai avaru ani amati nigrashti mineged einecha ach Osif labit elecha kodshecha. Oh, Jonah has a line there, though. Jonah. Yeah. Oh, yes, the translation. Okay.
You threw me into the depths of the sea with the flood all around me, surrounded by the waves and billows, passing over me like pillows. The abyss was all around, and only seaweed to be found. I know what I did was rotten. Now I've really hit the bottom. If you'll forgive and show me how, I'll serve and fulfill my vow.
Then Adonai spoke to the fish, and it spit Jonah out onto dry land. Tui.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. Wow, I've survived the whale.
Whale.
Wow, I've survived Jonah.
And the whale, thank you, very good part. Whale can go back to the ocean, go swim back. Okay. Chapter 3, Nineveh.
Jonah, time to dry off and get going. Get up and go to Nineveh, that great city, and proclaim the message that I told you.
Yes, I've learned my lesson.
Now, Nineveh was a very large city, 3 days across. One day into it, Jonah launched into the shortest prophecy in the Bible.
Hear ye, hear ye. In 40 days, Nineveh will be overturned. In 40 days, Nineveh will be overturned.
Believe him, my people. This Hebrew is a prophet of Adonai. Obey my proclamation. Neither man nor beast, herd nor flock may taste anything. You may not feed or drink water. All must be covered with sackcloth and cry loudly to God. Everyone must change their harmful and violent ways. Hopefully, God will turn away from this fierce anger and give us a second chance.
Aye, aye, aye.
Yes, sir.
That was the first time in the Bible that people really listened to a prophet and obeyed. God saw what the people of Nineveh did and how they changed their harmful ways.
It's from God.
For the harm God had intended and didn't do it. And this was the first recorded time in the Bible that God changed the divine mind and the power of teshuvah, repentance, began.
Chapter 4, the gourd. So, King, you are done. Thank you, King. You maybe. Okay.
Would you think that having his prophecy heard and having God forgive the people would please Jonah? But actually, he was annoyed.
Okay, God, isn't this just what I said to you when I was still in my own country? Yet that's the real reason I fled to Tarshish. I've read those 13 attributes. I knew you were a gracious and merciful God, patient and loving, who is sorry for harm.
Huh? Why are you so angry?
These Ninevites are our enemies, and I want them to be punished. So now, Adonai, take my life. It's better for me to die than to live.
After that hissy fit, Jonah left the city and headed east. He made a hut for himself and sat in the shade of it to see what happened to the city. God prepared a gourd and made it grow over Jonah like a nice leafy bower to shade him and preserve him from harm.
Editorial comment sounds like a sukkah.
Finally, I've got it made in the shade. I'll just sit here under this gourd with my cool lemonade.
But then God prepared a worm, and at daybreak it destroyed the gourd, and it withered. Then, when the sun rose, God prepared a fierce east wind, and the sun beat on Jonah's head.
Oy vey, it's so hot and windy here. I can't live like this.
Aha, Jonah. On a scale of 1 to 10, how angry are you about the gourd?
About an 11.
Gotcha, Jonah. You think you're sorry for a gourd for which you did no work, nor did you make it grow, which came up in a night and died in a night. Shouldn't I be sorry for Nineveh, the great city I worked so hard to create, where there are more than 120,000 people who don't even know their right from their left, and also many animals?
You just can't outsmart the Lord.
And that's the power of Teshuvah.
Thank you. Our whole cast could stand. Everyone who's in the cast, please stand and take a bow. Or thank you. Thank you. Excellent. We've just definitely discovered some new talent. Thank you. All right. All right. So now we've done our Torah and Havdalah in a very creative way. And we have time we're going to have a silent Amidah, but won't be totally silent. There'll be some soft music in the background. If you would like, I want to give you some options. If you want to say the traditional prayers, you can find the whole thing on page 222, and it goes to 244. But if you want to take this time for introspection and asking yourself questions, if you go to page 483, there should be some questions for pondering about life and about how you want your life to be in the year ahead. That's 483. And if you rather do a little Torah study and learn some of the laws of tshuva of Maimonides, that's 282. So once again, you want to pray, 222. You want to have some material for introspection, 483. And if you want to study a little of the laws of tshuva, 282. So please arise as comfortable, as able, or whatever's comfortable for you for this time of silent prayer and reflection, or quiet prayer and reflection with a little music in the background. So I invite you as able to rise for a confession, and actually I've decided to do, there's an alternative one on page 420. So please rise as able, and we'll say this alternative al chet. Still have the ve'al kulam, just different. The parts I'm doing are different, the parts you're doing is the same. Okay. 420 at the bottom of the page. Okay. For the wrong we did before you by listening to voices at odds with what we knew was right. For the wrong we did before you by not listening to voices telling us unpleasant truths. For the wrong we did before you by closing our ears to the poor and the hungry. For the wrong we did before you by not working at relationships. For the wrong we did before you by making no time for those who need us. For the wrong we did before you by excluding prayer from our lives. For the wrong we did before you by abusing our health. For the wrong we did before you by giving into illegitimate pressure. For the wrong we did before you by unnecessary anger. For the wrong we did before you by bullying others. For the wrong we did before you by talking of others' feelings behind their backs instead of face to face. Yeah.
Selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
For the wrong we did before you by forgiving in Jews what we condemn in others. For the wrong we did before you by forgiving in others what we condemn in Jews. For the wrong we did before you by taking Israel for granted. For the wrong we did before you by polluting our environment. For the wrong we did before you by abandoning the struggle toward equal rights for all. For the wrong we did before you by cutting ourselves off from people of other races and cultures. For the wrong we did before you by being afraid of others' disabilities. For the wrong we did before you by ignoring our own weaknesses. For the wrong we did before you by callous treatment of those with whom we live. For the wrong we did before you by callous treatment of those with whom we work or study. For the wrong we did before you by disrespect for those older or younger than ourselves. For the wrong we did before you by ignoring the sensitivities of children.
Ve'al kulam Eloah salichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
For the wrong we did before you by ignoring the horrors of war. For the wrong we did before you by blinding our eyes to the danger of nuclear arms. For the wrong we did before you by punishing others for lacks we see in ourselves. For the wrong we did before you by bearing grudges. For the wrong we did before you by indulging in excessive luxuries. For the wrong we did before you by giving less tzedakah than we could afford. For the wrong we did before you by manipulating others for our own gain. For the wrong we did before you by manipulating others' feelings for our own well-being. For the wrong we did before you by making those we love feel guilty. For the wrong we did before you by ignoring important issues in our community and country. For the wrong we did before you by being ashamed to act morally in public. For the wrong we did before you by turning away from Jewish observance. For the wrong we did before you by preventing others from showing their own strengths.
Ve'al kulam Eloah salichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
We may be seated. And we're going to call up Larry Crever and Marjorie Norris for a different kind of confession, a confession of the good. In the past few years, and this was actually started by Avi Weiss, a modern Orthodox rabbi, I think, people thought, and actually this is in the Torah, I taught about this in one of our Shabbat services, that we should confess the good that we do, not only the bad that we do. We don't want to get too mired in all those sins, and we should also try to build up the things that are right. So this actually goes from A to Z through the alphabet. Okay.
So in addition to the sins, this year, we have also acted with love.
Right.
Been kind to others.
Cared about other people.
Done good deeds.
Engaged in tikkun olam.
Fulfilled the dreams of our ancestors.
Given generously to tzedakah.
Hosted people and made them feel at home.
Imagined something good and helped to make it happen.
Judged people favorably.
Kindly done good deeds for others.
Learned something new.
Made strangers into friends.
Noticed when someone was struggling and reached out to support them.
Opened our minds to new ideas.
Pursued justice and peace.
Questioned the status quo.
Repaired and healed our community and world.
Spoke encouraging words.
Turned away from gossip.
Used our talents and resources to help others.
Valiantly worked to be better people.
Wished someone well and made their day.
X's and O's, we gave kisses and hugs to family members.
Yearned and yearned for a better world. And finally,
Zealously persisted in our dedication to making it real.
So may we continue. Thank you. Thank you. That was great and presented so beautifully. It motivates me. Okay, so now we are coming to Ne'ilah. We are, in Ne'ilah. And I'll begin with a kavanah. Ne'ilah is the final service of Yom Kippur. It's way in the back. Okay. So it begins on 5:33. I'll say a little about it, though. I want to mention that our Machzor, which was created for Hillels, for college campuses, so it doesn't have an Amidah in this Ne'ilah service. If it is your practice and you want to say another Amidah, you can go back to page 222 if you wish to say that silently. Ne'ilah, it's a reflection of a time when city gates were locked. It means locking. City gates were locked as the sun set. And as life goes on, as we reach middle age and beyond, sometimes we feel doors closing behind us. On one level, as we've seen, Yom Kippur is about mortality and rehearsing death. But as my teacher Reb Zalman taught, it is really a rebirth into a greater awareness, a reincarnation that can begin today. This is the paradox of Ne'ilah. Doors seem to shut behind us as we go through life, but if we live with a higher level of consciousness as we progress on the path of life, we can be opening to higher and more exalted gates. For the word Ne'ilah, like Ne'elah, it also means the highest. As we approach the last gate for the day, we find that it is not shutting, but it is opening to the highest. Are we ready to give ourselves over so totally to the Ne'ilah prayer? Are we ready to open the final gate and affirm all is truly a unity as we recite the final prayers of this awesome day? And as we open the ark, I want to say, as we open the ark, it is customary to stand throughout Ne'ilah, which is about a half hour. So if you need to be seated, please be seated when you need to sit. And as you're singing Pitchu Li, open for me the gates of righteousness, we might give people the opportunity to come up, and if they wanted to whisper a prayer in front of the open ark, they could do so.
Sure.
As the cantor leads us in Pitchu Li Sha'arei Tzedek, page 533, we think of the Midrash. A Midrash says, in the future you will be asked, what was your occupation? If you reply, I fed the hungry, they reply, this is the gate of God. You who fed the hungry shall enter. So with giving drink to the thirsty, clothing the naked, and those who look after orphans, and with those generally who do deeds of loving kindness, all of these are God's gates, and those who do such deeds shall enter them. So if people want to come up, you could keep singing. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Faithfully, okay. Well, you please rise, and if you want to come up briefly to say your own prayer before the ark, you could do so.
Pituli Sha'arei Tzedek Avovam Odea
Turn to page 537. Abraham will be leading us in El Nora Alilah, famous piyut for piyut is a liturgical poem, liturgical prayer, a song for the time of Ne'ilah, B'sha'at HaNe'ilah, the hour of Ne'ilah. And he'll do, of course, a Moroccan melody, and you can all join in. Hamse lanu mechila b'sha'at HaNe'ilah.
Eleonora Alila, Eleonora Alila, Hamtzi lanu mehila, B'shat haneila, Eleonora Alila, Eleonora Alila, Hamtzi lanu מחילה בשעת הנעילה מתי מספר קרואים לך עין נושאים ומסלדים בחילה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה שופכים לי חנה ושם מחי פשעם וכחשם המציאם מחילה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה היה להם לסתרם וחלצם ממארה וחותמם להודול גילה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה חולותם ברחם וכל לוחת ולוחם עשה בהם פלילה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה זכור צדקת אביהם וחדש את ימיהם כקדם ותחילה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה קרנה שנת רצון והשב שארית הצאן להוליבה והעולה בשעת הנעילה אל נור עלילה אל נור עלילה המצא לנו מחילה בשעת הנעילה.
Page 540 is we lead into the 13 attributes of God.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מתנהג בחסידות, אוכל עוונות עמו, מעביר ראשון ראשון, מר מחילה לחטאים, וסליחה לפושעים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא קראתם להם גמואל. אלירותנו מרומר ב13, זכור לנו היום ברית 13, כמו שהודעת לענה מקדם, וככתוב בקורתך, וירא בענן, ויתצב עמו שם ויקרא בשם אדוני, ושם נאמר, ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא, אדוני, אדוני, רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, עושה חסד לאלפים, עושה עוון ופשע וחטאה ונקה. וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו.
Please read with me in English at the bottom of 541. Adonai, Adonai, God filled with mother love, slow to anger, great in covenant of love and truth, keeping love for the thousands within the covenant, forgiving perverse actions, rebelliousness, and sin, and iniquity. We turn now to Avinu Malkeinu on page 500. We're going to do a little different, page 550. Just the parts that talk about sealing us in because all throughout the days of all we've talked about writing us in the book of life, Kotvenu, write us, and now we're going to say Chotmenu, seal us in the book of life. So we'll find this, let's see. It's going to be on page 550, like midway through the page, 1, 2, 3, the fourth stanza. Right. Okay. And please join with me and join me in singing this. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in your book for a life of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of sustenance. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of meritorious acts. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of forgiveness and reconciliation.
Avinu Malkeinu, chamol aleinu, v'alol aleinu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, pitach sharei shamayim, litfilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh leman bo'evosh, uva'amayim al kiddush shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, shema kolenu, hear our voices. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aneinu, ki ein banu maasim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, ve'oshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'aneinu, ki ein banu maasim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, ve'oshienu.
And we'll sing together. I'm turning back a little bit. Ki anu amecha, page 543.
Ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vonecha ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha ve'ata dodeinu, anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachalatecha ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonecha ve'ata roeinu, anu charmecha ve'ata notreinu, anu fiulatecha ve'ata yotreinu, anu rayatecha ve'ata dodeinu, anu segulatecha ve'ata kroveinu, anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha ve'ata mamireinu.
And read with me in English 544. God of those who sought you out in ages past, let our prayer come before you. Do not turn aside from our entreaty. We are not so obstinate and stubborn as to say before you, we are righteous, we've done no wrong, for indeed we have done wrong. And we join now as the gates are swinging shut in the last confession of Yom Kippur, bringing before our eyes each letter of the alphabet by which we've sinned, missed the mark, acted cruelly, or transgressed before you.
Asham Bagad Gazal Dibar Dofi, Hevinu, Vihirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Safalnu, Sheker, Yatsnu Ra, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Tsararnu, Kishinu Oref, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tahinu, Titanu,
Please read with me at the top of 546. You reach out your strong hand to wrongdoers. You extend your welcome to those returning in tshuva. It is you who taught us to confess all wrongs before you, that we might stop hurting other people, that we might be welcomed in your presence, because you know that only dust awaits us at the end. You are merciful to us. You are bountiful in your pardon. We'll do one more chorus of Avinu Malkeinu, since I jumped the gun on Avinu Malkeinu, just a chorus. You start us off.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Asei imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Asei imanu, tzedakah v'chesed v'oshieinu.
read together on page 553. Last night at Kol Nidre, we removed the Torah scrolls from this ark and stared into an empty cabinet, an empty field without the tree of life. We acknowledge that, like those before us, we would make vows today we could not fulfill. We acknowledge we had sullied our minds, our eyes, our mouths, which were created to serve God, to realize Torah, to redeem humanity, and yet, no sooner had the plaintive notes of Kol Nidre melted away, we heard God's ancient promise once again, I have forgiven you, as you have asked. We confessed our inability to fulfill our vows, and God still promised to forgive us. Now the ark is full. We stand here in the presence of the tree of life for us and those we love, of life for a world that begs for life, of life promised and renewed by the God whom we declare as one, is praised forever and ever, is God. And we affirm 7 times, God is. And we'll actually, we're going to close the ark right now and do the benediction and then the Shema.
Okay.
We could be seated. Source of blessing, may the year upon which we've entered for us be for Israel and for all humanity, a year of blessing and prosperity, a year of salvation and comfort, a year of peace and contentment, of joy and spiritual welfare, a year of virtue and fear of God, a year which finds the hearts of parents united with the hearts of children, a year of your pardon and favor, a year of true peace growing in our holy land and throughout the world. May the Eternal bless our going out and our coming in from this time forth and forever. And let us say, Amen. And we have Birkat Kohanim, which we find back on page 413. Priestly blessing.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May Adonai bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chudnecha.
May God cast over you the radiance of the divine face in all its fullness and grace.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom shalom.
May Adonai raise up the face of the divine before your face and establish peace for you, your families, and our world.
Amen. Amen.
And now we turn back to complete our Ne'ilah service with the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Adonai hu Elohim Adonai hu Elohim Adonai hu Elohim Adonai
Shalem, 555.
Fast one?
It's, yeah, go for it, sing it. Okay, sing it. Clap along, everybody.
Oh, you want the Hasidic one?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Just a second. Yikata v'yikata shemei v'ra'ameh ve'almati v'rute ve'ayich mapute ve'hayachonu v'yomei ve'on u'chayed elefo beit Yisrael v'agala u'bizman karev ve'imeru amen amen yeshmei rabba u'mevorah le'olam olmei olmaya yiparach ve'yishtabach yiparach ve'yishtabach ve'yipar ve'yimram ve'yinaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalach shemei dekudashah b'refu le'ela
Shirata tushbechata v'nechemata
tushbechata v'nechemata tamiram b'yalama v'yimeru amen titkabel tzloton uvoton deva'o Yisrael kadam abuhon dibishmaya v'yimeru amen Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael
Please rise. And if you'd like to gather a little closer for the final shofar blast, feel free. Come on closer if you want. Okay. Tikiya Gedolah. Asher Koach, Yesher Koach. Shana Haba.
Lishana Haba'a, Lishana Haba'a, Lishana Haba'a, B'Yerushalayim.
Havdalah.
Lishana Haba'a, Lishana Haba'a, Lishana Haba'a, B'Yerushalayim. Lishana Haba'a, Lishana Haba'a, B'Yerushalayim.
Havdalah time. Go ahead. You light it. It's time to lock arms with someone you're with if you want. Whatever is pandemically comfortable to you. Okay. And how about if we'll have Max and Jacob hold the candle for us? Nice and tall, okay? Or one of you do the candle, one do the spices, so it'll be safer. Go for it.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova,
I'm pouring this here
Shana
and
Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova, Shana Tova. A good year, a year of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good year, a year of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
A good year. Enjoy. We have a light breakfast out in the lobby. Thank you for being here all the way through Ni'ilah. And we'll be greeting you out in the lobby. We did it. Good.